All right, TC, help me out here. Just give me some good advice on dealing with IAM. That'd be identity access management.
Yeah, as much as you can, centralize control in an SSO platform and take a platform engineering approach in order to extend and enable access through that system.
Some good basic advice. All right. Ivan, do the opposite. Give me some bad advice on dealing with IAM.
Wow, I'm pretty good at bad advice. Let me think of something obscure because I think there's a few easy answers here. I will say bad advice would be, you know what? Our back is easy. Just give everybody a role. We'll figure it out from there.
All right. And back to you, TC. Give me worse advice than that.
Worse advice. Okay. Well, I really think that from a centralized security IT perspective, you don't have the expertise or the time to really understand these bespoke SaaS platforms that only one business area uses. So just trust them to manage it on their own.
I like it. All right. Whoops. Did I hear? Let's get this going.
Get ready. It's Super Cyber Friday.
Welcome, everybody. It is Super Cyber Friday. We're thrilled you're here. If you're here for the very first time, or it's been a long time since you've been here, welcome. And also welcome to our regulars who keep coming. Please announce in the chat room that you're a first timer. It's been a long time. We'd love to hear from you and where you are from. We saw people all over the place. Thrilled to have you here. Lori is here. I know I reached out to you, and Alfred is here. And Andrew Aiken, who is a consistent winner of the Best Bad Idea, is here as well. Thank you all for coming. By the way, he won the from last week. So, by the way, make sure you get your bad ideas in. I'll get to that in a second. All right, today's topic is hacking fragmented IAM, an hour of critical thinking of how to simplify the confusion on identity management, governance, and security. Our guests are TC Niedzikowski, or actually TC Niedzikowski. I was actually corrected on it, but he said he wouldn't correct me, but I'm correcting myself there. He's a former CISO over at Nextdoor and Thumbtack, and also Ivan Dwyer, who's the senior product marketing strategist over at Axonius. Hey, you know what? Axonius is our wonderful sponsor for today's episode, so thrilled that they're on board here. All right, let me go through a few things. Lots of different ways to participate. You know these. We have the chat room. Our bad ideas, how to further fragmented IAM. All right. We are talking about fragmented IAM. It is kind of fragmented. How would you make it even worse? That's what we want to know. But we also want your 10% better tips, how to simplify IAM. Andrew Aiken has been kind of the champion lately in the best bad ideas, so someone has to take them down, ideally someone brand new. By the way, if you are chosen for the best bad idea, you win a prize, the CISO Series jacket, which I'm not wearing right now. But for repeat winners, we send you an Amazon gift card as well. All right. You can ask questions of our guests. If you see on the right-hand side, there's a little question bubble on the right. Just click on that. Ask a question. We will get to as many of those as possible. You can vote for your favorite questions as well. All right. Our schedule is a classic schedule we have. We'll play the public interest. We'll play the Department of Yes. We'll have our meetup at the end. And I also want to mention that we are not going to be doing a show next week, but our show the week after that will be hacking social engineering. I'm actually surprised we haven't done this topic yet, but this will be the very first time we've done it. So please join us for that. You can click on the link at the bottom of the screen at any time during the show. It will not take you out of this chat. You could go register for that and still be here for this one as well. All right. What happened there? Okay, here we go. This platform always does weird, bizarre things out of there. Okay, I'm going to start with you, Ivan. Ivan, walk me through. There are about a bazillion different IAM solutions. None of them that I think is bad, but we just have a lot of them. So what are the categories we're seeing under identity? I mean, there's a lot. Because I want to sort of set the stage for the fragmentation problem.
Sure. There is no shortage of 3-letter acronyms or 4-letter acronyms in the identity space. If it all kind of rolls up to identity, it's split between kind of workload and customer identity. So you have customer identity is, logging into all your business applications. That's its own beast. But on the workload side, there's a lot of categories. So you kind of have identity and access management, which are your core identity providers like Okta and Microsoft Entra. You've got privilege access management for CyberArk. You've got identity governance, SailPoint. There's small, security categories like identity threat detection and response. You've got cloud infrastructure entitlements management. Now 9 human identities coming up. So there's a lot of acronyms. I probably did half of them that I see on a weekly basis, but that certainly contributes to some of the fragmentation, even though they're all there for good reason.
As a CISO TC, this I'm sure is like, top of your list and bugaboo on dealing with identity issues. Was it, because part of your job is to create a security plan, but within that is create a plan just for identity. How difficult is that?
I think it's really tough because it's key to people trying to get their job done, right? Any tool that you want to use in order to do something, or any change in job roles or change in process flow, like that impacts identity. What the systems are, how you identify yourself, what permissions are that you need. And I think, like Ivan was talking about, it's not just users, it's not just our number of employees or contractors, but it's also services, applications, workloads. Those are also part of this. And then from an impact perspective, top causes of breaches: stolen credentials or stolen secrets, stolen API keys.
It's like 60% to 2/3. I know it's pretty sky high.
Yeah.
And so we've seen it again. Anyways, get your questions in. We're going to be going through this identity issue back and forth all day long, and also lots of good advice and bad ideas. It looks
lots of good bad ideas. By the way,
I just want to say that Alan Alford and Andrew Aiken, I think, are kind of trading back and forth.
Yeah.
I think the two of them are trying to arm wrestle the most bad ideas coming in.
I think the password list with setting the maximum length to 0, that's going to be tough to top. I'm sorry.
We're just going to do one. He's just one character. That'd be great. All right. So what are we seeing that's I'm going to start with you, TC, on this. What are you seeing as a gleaming light in making the identity experience less painful? Because you bring up a really good point. Anything we do is going to cause problems of people doing their job, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just like, we could fix identity problems, but not fix business flow,
Yeah.
So what are you seeing that's making you feel a little bit hopeful in this space?
Honestly, the recognition of the problem, right? I mean, that is a huge, if you're going to invest time, money, energy, expertise into this type of project, people need to recognize it as a problem. And so it's finally hitting people over the head. Like, how can stolen credentials still be an issue for people breaking in when it's been how many years that we've had MFA? So I think the brightest silver lining I can think of is people knowing that it's an issue and that they need to deal with it.
By the way, I like Randall Hettinger's the identities will manage themselves. Wouldn't AI do that for us?
Proven to work every time. Yeah.
It's kind of like Jurassic Park. Identities will find a way, won't they? What do you think? So this is, and we're going to get into this a little bit more, but Axonius is delving into the space. Some people may find this weird that Axonius is sponsoring this episode about an identity because they're an asset management company, but we're going to get a little bit more about this later. But what did you see that you saw there's an opportunity for us to jump in, Ivan?
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with Axonius, we made a name for ourselves in cyber asset management, really just getting a handle of all of your corporate assets, whether it's devices, infrastructure, and identities was one piece of that. But we recognize that the identity attack surface very much resembles the cyber asset attack surface, in the sense that, and I love me some good wordplay, in the sense that no single identity source of truth is the one true identity system of record, which is kind of this sprawl fragmentation problem. You've got every directory, system, application, tool only really understands the accounts, policies, and entitlements models within its own walls. And when you think about management, when you think about governance, when you think about security, and you're crossing silos, you end up with these, fragmented environments. You can't effectively solve the problems at the attack surface level if you're just in one kind of directory. And I know TCE definitely the best advice is get everything into as much of a single directory as you possibly can. That's, proven to be challenged in the enterprise when you've got multiple legacy AD environments floating around. I mean, I worked at Okta for 5 years, and so I was always trying to champion, a single directory service. It gets hard. It gets really hard. So we saw that as an opportunity for us with our experience of kind of aggregating and normalizing cyber asset data. I was like, hey, let's do the same for identities and figure out what we can potentially solve at the kind of all up aggregated level.
By the way, I'm just going to throw this back up again. Tony Zernoon just puts up a good point in that we're not really going to get too much into privacy here, but we can definitely talk about it. But this really is about identity security. But I mean, the two do bleed into each other because it is two completely separate concerns and issues, for that matter. Not discounting privacy, but this is really a conversation about identity, for that matter. A question just came in from James Sparrenberg. Let me throw this one up. How much is, and this is a good point here, how much is cost of change the biggest factor in blocking effective identity management? Because anything you do to change, I mean, I'll even just say the simple process of we just had to offboard somebody, and oh my God, I didn't realize what a pain in the ass that was going to be because I didn't have a plan for that, and now I do. Go ahead.
I can talk to that one. So, I mean, one of the companies I worked with previously, when we saw, it's called roasting octopus. So these kind of Russian cybercrime targeted attacks at Western software companies using Okta, right?
Yeah.
And basically taking advantage to be able to steal or phish the MFA credential, the token that you get to access their critical infrastructure. We're like, okay, we see this attack coming. We want to get prepared. Initially, we thought we just had to pay Okta for another feature, and we actually rushed that contract and paid for that feature. And then we stepped back and we realized we had to upgrade from Okta Classic to Okta OIE. We had to redo our whole CLI authentication to AWS. And then we had to ensure the rollout and do permissions testing across the whole environment. It was a year-long project just in terms of infrastructure upgrades in order to enable device authentication. And so what you have is those infrastructure platform upgrades are very expensive in order to enable the latest feature for the latest attack.
Oh, by the way, let me do a deep reference here: Okta Classic to Okta ME.
Identity
OIE.
OIE. Oh man, I was there during that transition, so I better keep my.
And they don't help you. I mean, literally, there's a flip you switch in production from a SaaS service provider where suddenly you're from Okta Classic to Okta OIE, and a bunch of old methods and calls don't work anymore under OIE. And there's not really much help to make sure you don't break your own environment when you do the switch.
True. Yeah, I mean, change management is tricky in identity for a couple of reasons. There's the identity infrastructure on one side of it, but then at the life cycle management events, all the joiner mover leaver scenarios, that involves so much manual change management across systems that becomes its own challenge. So you're kind of swapping, do we go through the process to upgrade our infrastructure, or do we keep these kind of manual change processes in place? You're kind of trading one for the other. At some point, you got to do a lot of work regardless. Is it a big heavy lift infrastructure overhaul, or is it continuing on kind of manual change processes? That is still, I think, a big challenge for folks.
Yeah.
By the way, Diane has an IAM role that she is hiring for, and I'm letting her promote this. So go ahead, promote away in the chat room, Diane. That's quite all right. Hopefully we do have some good people. By the way, and I should mention that we are hiring at the CISO series for a sponsor relations manager. Just go to the front page. Or actually, could someone on the team just paste the link for that job role? We are hiring. So if anyone knows anyone, essentially anyone with vendor marketing experience would be great for us. But that has nothing to do with our topic at hand. Let's see. We have a good question.
You can promote yourself. It's fine.
No. That's fine. Okay. But also, if you join our chat, by the way, I forgot to mention, we do have a chat at the end of the show that's on Discord. Please stick around for that, especially if you're looking for roles as well. So you can chat with me about it. All right. Here, from Randall Hedinger. Where do you see the biggest gaps in spotting risky identity behavior in real time across all environments? So, I mean, there is two stories here. How do we set up a way for people to log in and do it securely, and then how do we actually track this darn behavior? So this is a very good question. I'm going to let you start with this on Ivan.
Sure. I think blind spots are always, potential gaps when you're dealing with fragmentation. I'll pick one like more pointed example. When you think about MFA gaps, right? So if you think about it at the directory level, so Okta will tell you which directory users have MFA on which SSO applications, and they will tell you have a 100% MFA coverage if you do everything right. But what about the applications that are not behind Okta? What about all the infrastructure environments? Getting AWS IAM behind Okta is certainly a challenge. I spent way too long trying to make that easy. So I think you end up with these gaps where your primary directory is telling you you've got 100% MFA coverage, but it's actually not the reality. And those are blind spots that can hit you at the worst possible time if you don't get ahead of it. So I think those are some of the challenges when you think about security gaps, where one tool is telling you one thing, but they only have a small, not small, but they only have a percentage of the whole attack surface picture. Those are the gaps that are really hard to spot. And that's more, I'd say, posture side. Of course, on identity threats, I mean, there's a million ways to make that hard. I'll maybe pause on that one. Maybe TC's got some ideas on that one.
By the way, does Alan Alford have surely the highest number of bad ideas that anyone has ever contributed on our show? So I think he's, by the way, Diane's job listening came in. All right, TC, answer this and we're going to go to our first game.
Yeah. So I think the biggest gap, taking like a Karl Rove type analysis, there's the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns, right? So I think the biggest gap is the unknown unknowns. So I'll just give an example. Any company that's doing business, anybody that advertises on Facebook, right? Your marketing team probably uses their personal Facebook account. And whatever that spend is from marketing, up to $1 million, multi-millions of dollars, whatever, it's through their personal Facebook account. So if they leave the company and they still have that personal Facebook account and they're still associated to that, billing unit, and their personal phone gets hacked or their personal computer gets hacked, this threat actor is drawing down money from you up to that limit where Facebook might catch it and tell you about it later or not.
Have you seen this happen before, I'm assuming?
This is purely theoretical.
Deprovisioning is hard.
But you need to pay separately, for Meta's enterprise product to integrate with your SSO and have separate corporate Meta accounts. You have to pay for that separately.
Well, TC, you offboarded somebody. A week, 2 weeks, a month later, you're like, oh crap, we forgot this.
Yeah.
Does it happen some of the time, all of the time, or yes, all of the time, no other than all of the time?
In that unknown category for SaaS applications, it's happening all the time.
All the freaking time. All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. All right, we got our first game.
Do you know what others are thinking? On the public interest.
All right, kudos to Rich Straffolino. He makes this game every week. I love it. It's a lot of fun. The audience plays along. Remember, I bring it up all the time. 4 out of 4, quite difficult to pull off. I did it 2 weeks ago. I think it might have been the first time I've ever done it. We've had maybe 2 to 3 guests pull it off. Let's see if any one of us will do it. I have not seen these questions. Let's see. First one. Most average monthly search queries, which gets, and again, it's just this one word, people typing in, not intelligent and something else, just this one word. What gets, and it's current too, I should also mention that. And it's anybody on the internet, not just security people. So intelligent, angry, or mapping. What gets the most? I'm going with A, intelligent. What do you think? I'm sorry, Ivan, TC, you got to pick one.
Oh, C. I'm going mapping.
In there. I went angry. I'm too online.
Okay, so just so you know, Rich Straffolino has confirmed that he does know what IAM stands for, but he's playing with these initials throughout all this. So intelligent, angry, and mapping. All right, so we're all going one different one. So I'm intelligent, Ivan is angry, TC is mapping. The correct answer is Intelligence. All right. All right. Right now, I'm the only one who can conceivably go 4 for 4. We'll see how we go. All right. Imposter anxiety management. Imposter anxiety. I'm going to go F, management. That's what I'm going. Ivan?
I'm anxious answering this, so I'm going to say anxiety.
Okay. TC?
Yeah, I'll go E, anxiety as well.
All right. So 2 for anxiety, me for management. Let's see what we get. Ah, very good. All right, we're tied up. One each of us. All right. Geez, look how that is depressing.
Yeah, that is little. I mean,
so high.
The manager to IC ratio.
There you go. Yep.
A for anxiety always wins. All right, we got a few people 2 for 2 so far. Okay, here we go. Incompetent authentication madness.
I mean, those things are all very related to each other.
I'm going authentication.
I have to go madness. I'm on a tear on these themes.
All right.
I guess H. I'll go H as well because it's not mad, it's madness. So I'll go H.
All right. So 2 for authentication, 1 for madness, and the correct answer is we're all incompetent.
We are. If you are incompetent at authentication, it drives you mad. That's the theme here.
All right. Oh, Andrew Aiken is currently 3 for 3. Alan Alford is sad.
He saw these in advance.
All right. So are we. Well, so are we, Alan. Hold on. Here we go. 2 for 3. Lisa's 2 for 3. Good job. All right. Here we go. Last one. Intrusive access and monkeys. I'm going monkeys on this because everyone wants to see a picture of monkeys.
I think so too. I think so too.
Monkeys? What do you think, TC?
I guess I'll go K. I'll go K for access.
Access?
What? Yeah, L monkeys. Kids use the internet. L,
okay,
monkeys.
So all 3 monkeys? We're all going for monkeys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's monkeys.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. We
gotta go with your first instincts.
Let me just say that we all suck.
Incompetent.
We are incompetent. We're incompetent access monkeys is what we are. Okay. 1 for 3. Hold it. So how did Andrew Aiken pull off the 4 for 4? Because he was 3 for 3. Best week ever for James Fahrenberg, 3. TJ got 3. Monkey was much more higher search than monkeys. Right.
Yes.
Fair
enough.
That's a trick.
That's a trick. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I was leaning hard to access. Oh, he didn't pick it, so Andrew didn't get the 4 for 4. All right. All right. Here we go. So now I kind of alluded to this earlier, Ivan, that the fact that you're sponsoring this episode that doesn't have to do with access management, but with identity. And we chatted about this earlier, and now I want to kind of give you the floor to kind of explain why the heck is Axonius getting involved in this, and what did you learn from access management that's allowing to? So give me sort of the background and
sure.
Why Axonius is getting into this game of IAM.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we got our start in cyber asset management. The company's been around for 7 years. By the way,
week, I should mention one of our earliest sponsors. We were
really?
with you guys,
nice.
Literally our 6.5 years ago. So
wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
So
we've come a long way.
Let me just say that we did a live show at RSA the year that you won the sandbox.
Yeah.
This was an amazing story. I'll just quickly mention it. Your CEO, Dean's flight was late, couldn't make it. At the last second, the CMO got up on stage, did the presentation, which Dean is the one who had practiced it. The CMO killed it. The CEO, came in later. They ended up winning. Everyone was happy as a clam.
Yeah.
But we, as the CISO series, since you were a sponsor, we took full credit.
Yeah, well, obviously, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
We've come a long way since then. Just last week, we were in Dallas for our inaugural customer conference, and this was a big kind of unveiling of Axonius 2.0 for us. And I'll try to keep my vendor hat on as mindful as possible for this group. But part of it is, we recognize that foundational data across the entire attack surface allows you to do very interesting things if it is truthful. And by truthful, I mean complete, accurate, and always up to date. So our kind of bread and butter for years has been very comprehensive breadth and depth data aggregation and running that through very extensive pipelines to give you very truthful answers to typically hard questions about your posture across the attack surface. So again, the identity fragmentation, the identity attack surface felt like a natural extension for us. So last week at our inaugural ADAPT conference in Dallas, we got up on stage and announced Exonius Identities, brand new product. I gave a demo. It didn't break. Everybody was clapping. It was fantastic.
There you go. So, by the way, that's a win right there.
Yeah. Did it again yesterday in San Francisco. We're going on the road to a bunch of different cities, New York, Chicago, DC, London, Atlanta. So identity is a new market for us, but we felt like there was a need for kind of all up kind of management, governance, security platform that solve that kind of data aggregation platform. We're not your access management tool over here, but we'll hook into all of your directories, all of your SaaS applications, your infrastructure providers, and just give you very clean identity data at the end of that. And there's a lot of things you can do with that from a governance, lifecycle management, and just security perspective. So that's kind of how we got here. This is new territory for us, but pretty exciting. I mean, I certainly have some identity background, so it feels familiar to me. But we'll see how we do. All
right. So I just did it right now. So for anyone who would like a nice, warm handoff to the wonderful people over at Exonius, because they have been wonderful to us, and I'm sure everyone here knows them in the access management space, and interested to know, well, how are they dovetailing this over into identity? Go to the poll. So if you look on the right-hand side, there's a little like a tiny bar chart icon. Click on that, answer the poll. We will make that warm handoff for you, and so you can have a nice connection.
Very
with the
nice.
people
How
over at
thoughtful.
Exonius.
Thank you.
So there you go. All right, get your questions in. By the way, if I didn't mention it, we are doing social engineering in 2 weeks. No show next week, but 2 weeks. Okay, so this is a really good question here because this has got at least 14 different answers. All right, from James Smerenberg again. How much of an issue is the Linux versus Mac versus Windows versus Cloud IAM management issue? Because correct me if I'm wrong, everyone's using the hold on, why am I blanking out on the name of it? The tool that everyone uses on Windows for identity. Why am I blanking on the name
Entra?
of it? No, they'll hit me in a
Active
second.
Directory?
Thank you, Active Directory.
AD.
AD. Thank you. Got blanked out on it.
So many names. Yeah.
So everyone's can you avoid Active Directory actively? I mean, I know there are a lot of solutions out there trying to get you to, but don't you kind of fall into that trap no matter what? What do you think?
I'll let you go first, TC. I've got some spicy opinions here.
So I think, there's what you're authenticating from and there's what you're authenticating to. Mm-hmm. And so I think you got to look at both sides. So if you're talking about Active Directory or Okta or that other kind of SSO platform, that could be a Mac, Linux, Windows issue. But what you're authenticating to, just to throw it out there, like sometimes in order to integrate with SSO from an enterprise SaaS vendor, it literally costs you twice as much. Like you're going from your basic license to your professional license or your enterprise license. And so it's twice as much spend. And so the business might not do that, or that specific business area. So I think it's not complete. You need to focus on what it is that people are actually accessing, the software application they're accessing.
Okay.
Yeah. Good call.
Ivan?
Yeah. So
plus
one to that. Plus one to that. But I mean, every one of those kind of target resources has different protocols, credential mechanisms, session handling, right? So just a little backstory. The reason I joined Okta in 2018 is they acquired a startup I was at called ScaleFT, and we had built some really nifty SSH tooling to doing one-time client certificate auth for SSH, right? So every authentication flow is so bespoke, but it kind of has to be if you want to do it right. So the idea that you could just have like one auth layer has just like never proven to be true. And like CyberArk has done a fantastic job of covering like the long tail of every type of privileged access and dealing with, what is the client experience? What is the what is the credential mechanism? What is the account mechanism? How do you do session handling, session recording? How do you do like local account lifecycle management? So it gets really hard, and because Linux and Windows and everything is going to operate very, very differently at that level. So it contributes to this fragmentation problem. If you think about all the different mechanisms for access management, there is no one single passwordless experience that's really ever going to reign supreme because of all those nuanced differences. So I think just kind of +1 on what TC said there. So that wasn't that spicy. It's just a very familiar experience dealing with Linux access for many, many years.
Yes, I'm sure. All right. Please again get your questions in. Oh, you were about to say something, TC? Jump in.
Oh no, I was just agreeing, but I'll just add, like, that's also more on the workforce, person part, not to mention the whole, services right. Workloads, that authentication aspect.
Yeah, that's an interesting area.
What do you think is, there's identity sprawl, there's the issue of lingering identities that could fall under identity sprawl too. There's trying to understand the attack surface. There's just the basic case of verification. Like, of all these aspects, what has been the toughest to deal with? Just in every aspect of identity, what is the part that just seems to keep getting away or just becomes the hardest? Like, I asked you, like, does it often happen that, weeks and months after somebody leaves, you find a lingering identity? You say yes, all the time. So that's got to, I got to see that's got to be one of them. Like, that's never going away, sadly. TC, anything else?
I guess I would pick two, right? So I'd say there's some layer, like if you think of like a CI/CD pipeline, the orchestration to like launch an application in production, and then all the different systems and services that application needs to talk with, doing the secrets rotation, like really having it down. And sometimes, one of these vendors is impacted and you need to go rotate that secret right now. Being able to, like, when is a good time to invest that work, to put in some sort of automated process to do secret rotation, which is, again, bespoke. How do you do secret rotation for that particular resource that your application's talking to? It's been a long time, and that still doesn't seem like an easy space.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this is a good one. We didn't bring up secrets rotation. Ivan, what do you think has been the toughest, the one that just keeps freaking getting away?
Yeah, I'll go back to lifecycle management again. I still think that it's such a big challenge and problem when you think about it across everything. And, I have my own horror stories. I've heard many horror stories. People have admitted to me that they've left companies and 2 years later can still get access to production AWS environments. And I'm like, yeah, that happens. And just trying to reconcile that. And I think it, speaks to all the different just flavors of accounts and credentials that are out there. The life cycle piece is just so hard because it is not just removing the user from Workday and calling it a day and assuming your automation is going to work from there, because very likely it's not going to cover everything. So that's probably still number one in my mind.
Hey, I'm going to throw this question for you, Ivan, from Murad Sit. How is Axonia's IAM different from non-human identities, NHI?
Yeah, we're basically non-human identities is an asset type in our world. So we will aggregate them, we will see them, we will understand their state and posture. We are not managing, the accounts. We're not managing the credentials. We're not doing secret rotation. I think there's a lot of very specific problems and challenges in NHI management that I think require some more dedicated tools. I think we're coming at the aggregation across everything. We see it all. We give you visibility into it, but there's very kind of bespoke needs there that is not our wheelhouse today.
All right. So get your questions in, everybody. We want to see some more. All right. So the whole topic has been about fragmentation here. And so I'm going to start with you, TC, on this. Can you give me an idea in all the jobs you've had before? How many identity tools did you have running, trying to work together at the same time?
What I would say is the problem is it's almost uncountable, because each SaaS application itself can have its own identity tool. So just as an example, when it comes to like Meta and you're doing campaign management, you have users and roles and privileges within that tool. That's, almost always using people's personal Facebook accounts. So that's one, right? And that doesn't count Okta, your major cloud providers, Google, all this type of stuff. So I think it's almost, the superset might be, it's going to be no more than every SaaS application, every software application you have, until you get to the production infrastructure side. Then the number might, you have your own applications you're building, which have their own concept of identity. And then I think the big category is consumer identity versus, workforce identity. We're still talking about kind of workforce, your production infrastructure, rather than managing identity for your consumers.
I would say that people like Andrew can hear posts. I have valid credentials on multiple former employers' systems who chose not to go with IAM systems, including Okta, which I had recommended. I tell this story. I had left, and this goes back many, many years ago. I lived in San Francisco in the early 90s, left in 1993, came back in 98, 5 years later, applied for a library card with the city of San Francisco. I had been gone 5 years. My record was still sitting there, and I owed them 25 cents. They held on my record and a 25-cent charge for 5 years. That had to cost more than 25 cents to hold on to that.
Yeah, but you got to support the libraries, Dave.
Yes.
They're doing.
But they were holding on to that charge.
How much would it cost them?
Yeah.
How much would it cost them to build the functionality to delete people's accounts and keep that working
Possibly
across,
more expensive.
changing?
I
There's the
don't know.
interlibrary
I have no
loan
idea.
system, all that, so I mean, it takes effort to clean up people's identities. And I think that the hit you get is enabling people's access. You don't get a big high from removing people's access.
No, and that's another thing. Let's just talk about individuals' access. I have a password manager tool, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of identities on there. And I would say 95% of them I have not touched in years and probably will never, ever touch. But like what you said, removal. Why would I bother?
Yeah.
And I've had some situation. I had a situation. There is the right to be forgotten.
Yeah.
Right. There was some one of these office rental services where I got I just used it once, got a horrifically nasty review, and it was all a miscommunication. And I just said, I don't want my one time to have that one awful review attached to it. So I said, you got to wipe me completely off of your platform. And the hurdles that I had to go through, and I had to show them the link to the right to be forgotten law so they knew, because they didn't understand this. It was insane level of hurdles to do it. I'm like, I can't imagine the second person.
Well, how about 23andMe right now? Everyone's trying to figure out how to get in there and get their stuff deleted.
That's going to be good luck.
I have no idea what email address I signed up for that 15 years ago.
Who knows where your DNA is going? Create another
nowhere
Ivan Dwyer somewhere.
Yeah, nobody wants that. I've got 2 young kids. Yeah, that's enough. But it's a good point. And actually, I wanted to touch on, TC kind of mentioned it. The SaaS landscape and identity landscape kind of share this challenge, and there's a lot of similarities, and it just kind of continues to multiply. Everything multiplies when you consider where these identities exist. SaaS infrastructure. It does not just become a single account problem when you start to consider those types of environments. Yeah.
A good example is someone mentioned ChatGPT in the chat, right? Okay, so you want to enable employees to use ChatGPT. Do you want to pay $20-something, like $25 per employee per month, so that you can have ChatGPT with SSO, right? Or do you just want them to go and pay for a cheaper consumer account on their own? So you're getting that 50% something uplift just to have it integrate with SSO. But if you don't do that, people can break into their ChatGPT accounts and have all the information they provide.
Sure. Someone here has seen the SSO wall of shame. There's a website.
Which, by the way, Andy Ellis hates that. Oh no, the SSO wall of shame. I'm talking about the wall of disregard. Yeah.
Oh,
are you
talking about?
I think it's called SSO.tax.
SSO tax. Yeah.
Is it updated pretty consistently? Because I went and was like
years.
really
you can update it. You can update it through, if you have a GitHub account, you can update it.
You can push a PR. Nice. Yeah.
All right. We get your bad ideas in just about a minute. We're going to play the
bad idea. Sign up for 23andMe.
Yeah, sign up right now.
Yes, right now.
That would probably be the championship bad
Exactly.
idea.
Oh my god.
Oh, I like this one. All right, we're gonna do this.
Oh,
Hello, welcome to the Department of Yes, where no request is ever rejected.
All right, here we go. From Dwayne Gran. In honor of George Foreman's passing, name all of your staff like he did with his sons with the same name. For those you don't know, he has 5 sons, all named George. This way, you only have one identity to keep track of. All right, I am throwing this to you, TC. Why do you want to do this? So essentially, just give. By the way, hold it. Wait, I'm just going to say this. I worked in an ad agency where this was pre-internet. We had our own like mail server system.
yeah.
And it wasn't pre-internet, but we weren't using the internet. Actually, we were using our own mail server. The password for everybody's account was the name of our IT guy, and his name was Manny. They all had the same password.
Yeah.
All right, so this isn't too far off. All right, why do you want to do this?
Yeah.
TC?
So there's this inflection point with startups where I think it's somewhere over 100 people where you can't know everybody's name, right? So I think this saves you the embarrassment, right, of having a larger organization, having gone through that growth curve and suddenly not being able to give that personalized attention by calling people or communicating with them by their name.
I like this. Why do you want to do this, Ivan?
Well,
It
saves
takes
me a
deep-
post-it note. A whole
Post-it
bunch
note?
of post-it.
I don't know about No, I don't like that one.
I don't
Give me
know
another
what
one.
that is. Maybe I missed the prompt. I'm supposed to say why
Problem
this
is you have
bad
to
idea is a
explain
good
to me
idea.
why you actually want to do this. It's the opposite of
Why?
Department of No,
Okay.
which says
Got
no to
it.
good ideas. You're saying yes to bad ideas. Why do you want to actually do this? By the way, I have to clarify to the audience.
Yeah.
I usually prep my guests before the show on how to play this game, and I completely
missed
forgot I
it.
did not
Sorry,
prep
my
Ivan
fault. Okay.
correctly
No, I got
for
it.
this.
I
So
got it.
Ivan,
I got it
go
here.
for it.
Okay.
Why do you want to do
Because
this?
you know what? The account name does not matter. Everyone's going to be named George, but everyone's going to have just-in-time credentials to access the thing they need to access. So it's okay if they're all named George.
There you go. Now you saved your butt there on that one. That was the correct answer.
No, I go back
Very
to
good job.
Post-it notes. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Reduce businesses by 100%.
Where was it? There was here we go. Oh no, where was it? Oh, here's this one I like. This one from Andrew Aiken. Here we go. Implement passwordless technology by simply setting the maximum password lengths to 0 characters. If you remember your username, you're in. Which a lot of people can't remember their username. TC, what do you think? Is this a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, you've literally implemented passwordless, right?
There's no password.
Yeah, I mean, this is you put your finger on the computer, you put your finger on your Mac computer, and you're logged in. This is great. This is beautiful. This is what you're trying to do.
Well, this is not your finger. This is you just typing your username. So I could type in TC and also be into your account.
Okay. Why is that a good idea?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you need to get access to the system to do your job. If you can't get in,
If I can't remember my account, at least I can remember your account.
there you go. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Ivan, why do you want to do this?
See, I was going to do the biometrics too. It was like, this is what we want. We want passwordless. We actually want the maximum password length.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a good idea.
That is correct.
Ivan, this is the game is called
correct.
Bad Idea.
I understand. Why would I say yes to that? I trust you that your username is hard to guess.
Is it first dot last name? Is that why?
We're going to give you that.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah, your username is a biometrically derived hash. Totally fine. It's rotating. It's rotating on your watch. Yes, there's some conditions here. Can you rotate the username? Right? Yeah. See, I think we're okay here. This is all good ideas.
I'm down with it. All right. All right. Let's get back to
David's not having it anymore.
No, I like this. All right. What time we got? Okay, we got 15 minutes left in the show. I appreciate this. All right. Do we have any questions in? No questions. Get your questions in if you like. By the way, if you have not registered for in 2 weeks, please register it. No show next Friday, but the week after. I thought I was going to be in Texas doing a show, but the entire event got canceled, so that's why we don't have a show next. It's because of. Anyways, all right. Let's get to our questions. All right. Can you even think, Ivan, I'm starting with you, and I'm assuming this is what you thought about when you were building this out at Axonius. Did you look at the identity experience and say, okay, here are the things, maybe mention just one or two items, and that were like, this is awful. What can we do to fix this? And just like, what is the thing that you're bringing that you looked and said, this is an awful experience. What can we can at least improve this?
Sure. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of experiences to consider here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the end user experience, that's kind of a different problem domain. We're kind of solving the management governance experience a little bit. And it is very much, I think, the fundamental challenge of just not having an accurate inventory of all your identity artifacts. And that is not just accounts, but groups, group membership, roles, role assignments, entitlements. I think, entitlements is a really challenging thing to get right across the board. So I think the experience that we're really trying to aim for is kind of going back to that lifecycle management, thinking about zooming out a little bit. There's ways to do lifecycle management in Okta. There's ways to do it in AWS. But wouldn't it be nice if we could kind of define our own set of rules of this is what we want to be true across all systems, and then to be able to adhere to that truth as a rule is really the experience we're trying to give the administrators versus manual RBAC, manual role-based access controls, manual lifecycle change events. Just all of that manual work was really the experience we were trying to solve at Axonius.
Oh, well, excellent. I know I want to remind people, by the way, we have the poll that is up. Please go to the poll, click on the poll. We will make that warm handoff to the people over at Axonius. Let's make that happen. So go check that out. And that poll is up through the rest of the show. And also the link at the bottom for the show in 2 weeks will be there for another about 10 minutes, if you will. All right. So what have you been able to improve, TC, on identity that you couldn't do, say, 5 years ago?
And that you couldn't do 5 years ago. It's interesting. There's a push-pull between the threats and then your response, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is something where the attackers change their techniques, and this is like we were talking about with the roasting octopus campaign, targeting companies that are leveraging Okta. So something that's fairly new is doing something like device trust, where you're authenticating both the user and their device. And so the benefit from this is that if you already have like mobile device management in place where you know that it's a managed corporate device, you can then, and if that user is, authenticated to that device, you can then essentially, you're authenticating where it is that they're logging in from and gaining that assurance versus the spread, someone using that same username and password from any potential device. So I think that thing that adding that thing in terms of authenticating the endpoint that they're connecting from, in addition to the user themselves, that's a really killer feature.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say that. I would just add on. That's a great answer, because I think in the world of zero trust, and an identity is more about a user on a device at a point in time and all of the surrounding context, and having that device trust capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that was harder probably before 5 years ago. Yeah, good answer.
All right. Oh, we got a question that came in. This comes from Randall Hettinger. What should security teams be doing differently to quickly investigate and understand suspicious identity activity before real damage occurs? Okay, we actually haven't been talking about the actual activity of managing identity, more just the setting people up. So what should be done differently? I mean, that's a good question. And maybe you can also tell us what you're trying to do differently at Axonius. I'll start with you, Ivan.
Sure. I think in the context of identity threat detection and response, there is a thing to do in the middle, which is contain. If you have good detection, for identity threats, and that could be a combination of getting, more proactive on understanding where you have weak controls, or, things like, impossible travel kind of configurations, types of things like that but then on the more reactive side, actual account takeover scenarios. There's obviously a response. There's an investigation phase, and there's a response that you have to go take. If you can contain the blast radius of a compromised account, you're doing something right out of the gate, because it can involve a lot of investigation. So I think that's something maybe a little bit different than traditional thinking of detection and response. To just jump right into the response and try to figure out what happened, would be to get a sense of the blast radius, see if you can contain, quarantine, lockdown accounts, kill sessions. Like, just try to do that first, and that gives you time to do kind of good investigation. That would be my answer there.
Okay. The
Mind if I add a pitch to the
go
do
ahead. Yeah,
different?
TC Sam, sure.
So this one's debated kind of within the bug bounty crowd right now. But I think you can get a lot of bug bounty submissions that are essentially from info stealers, so stolen credentials for employees, and people from the bug bounty community are trying to get these companies to pay up for this information. So I think it is worth paying for that information, if it turns out to be legit, and then doing a root cause analysis. Because essentially what's happening is, hey, something got out. Someone was able to log into some sort of corporate system as one of your employees. What was it they got access to? How'd they get that access? And how did these credentials leak? So I would encourage security teams to pay for those bug bounty reports and investigate them.
It can be very, very worth it. Yes. I know I'm interested in anyone in the chat room has been involved in bug bounties themselves, actually gotten a payout before. Be interested to know. All right, how much time we got? We got about 9 minutes. Here, let me do this. Let me go to the close, and we're going to talk about issues we haven't discussed yet. Or actually, you know what? Here, let me go to this one question, then I'll come back to you. From Alan Alford. What can an identity management system do to actively discourage hard-coded service account credentials? Oh, because we were talking about secrets before. All right. Can an identity management system do something to that effect? Ivan, what do you think?
You can enforce it. Depends on where you want to try to enforce it. Discouragement. Let's see. Discouraging that. Yeah, I mean, best case scenario is you have kind of the just-in-time, kind of short-lived credentials, and you have to enforce that on. You can enforce that at the policy level somehow. It depends on the downstream resource or machine. I mean, discouraging it. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a little bit of education, but actually being able to support that at the technology level, like fundamentally, it can be hard if the protocol doesn't support it. Like that's hard. That's hard, and you have to like manually rotate things and manually change things. So I think that's a tricky one. I probably don't have the best answer, to be honest.
I got a snarky one in there, which is, you want to enable, right? So you need to provide the architecture and the training. Like this is the way that we do this here, right? So use these tools. They're easy to implement from a coding implementation CI/CD pipeline perspective, but then hold people accountable. Like do credential scanning for your code base, right? For your cloud infrastructure, and then actually hold them accountable to doing the rotation, right? Like if they're actually having to go and manually do the credential rotation for their services, it's only going to take a couple times before they'll say, you know what, I'll finally implement it the right way with the automated tooling you provided.
If you have to do it twice, automate.
Yeah.
All right, here, let me go through some closing things. By the way, click on the link at the bottom of the screen to register for our Super Cyber Friday. It's happening in 2 weeks because that is going to go away. Hey, huge thanks to Axonius for sponsoring this very episode. Thank you so much, Axonius. I do want to mention we have a demo. Can we drop that link in there? And it's also going to be available in our newsletter on Sunday. Ivan and I actually did a demo of their new platform. How freaking cool is that? So if you actually want to see the identity platform, how it actually works, go check out the demo. We'll drop the link right now in the chat room. But if you're not already registered for or not a subscriber to our newsletter, please do. Just go to the CISO series page on LinkedIn, subscribe for the newsletter there, and you will see that demo on Sunday. That's when we will drop it as well. Huge thanks to both TC and Ivan for doing that. And also, hey, guess what's happening? A regular to this very event, although he's not here today, Jonathan Waltrip, the CISO over at the Weather Company. He will be our guest on our show, Cybersecurity Headlines Week in Review, where we present about 7 of the top stories of the week. Our very own Rich Stroffolino is the host of that show, and that happens over on YouTube. So go to CISOseries.com and click the YouTube icon or go to the events. You'll see it there as well. Also, you could just go to youtube.com/CISO series and you'll find it there as well. We go live and you can participate in a chat there talking about the week's news as well. All right, our meetup. Let's change that link at the bottom of the screen right now to our meetup at the end of the show. What happens is we do a post-show meetup on Discord. It kind of looks like what you're seeing there on the screen. The lower left-hand corner has all your audio and video things that you can change right there. So please join us for that. Remember, if you want to sponsor a Super Cyber Friday, just email us at info@cisoseries.com and we could get you on board. We have openings in May, so we'd love to have you on board as well. All right. My last question to you, TC, is what did we not discuss about identity that we should have? TC? There's plenty,
it's
I know.
it's such a large space. I think, something we didn't talk about, I think, was the resistance you can face within the organization when you're trying to make these changes.
Good point. I mean, you kind of alluded to that at the fact when you said anything you do is going to cause problems. But yeah, resistance. Just the whole thing about trying to roll out MFA. I mean, everyone knows that experience. Not everyone goes, yay, MFA. Doesn't happen. Ivan, what didn't we talk about?
We didn't dive too much into identity governance and just how expensive and time consuming and hard
we alluded
it is
to that in fact when I brought up my story. Just deleting a name is costly.
Formal IGA programs that are, in the name of compliance, how costly that truly gets. Oof, it's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah, I did, because our business became so much more complicated. I didn't realize what a pain in the butt offboarding would be. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed.
So, whoops.
Now we're offboarding our podcast.
There's a good recommendation here from Tony.
Prevention. Yeah.
What is it? What is Tony's recommendation here?
I guess it's
we do not talk about prevention, touch on zero trust, but where is zero trust for identity? Well, isn't that the whole point?
I know. If identity is the new perimeter,
where's the ID perimeter?
The
industry has talked about. No, I mean that's kind of the whole point of zero trust is that you don't focus so much on you don't put unlimited trust on the identity, because, for example, TC logging in today may be TC, tomorrow may be somebody else. Who knows?
But I think, just to touch on Tony's point, what I think is interesting about the question, right? If identity is the new perimeter for zero trust, where data is the target, what happens when identity is the target? So it's not just the perimeter, it's the target. So if you think about how do you protect the identity as the target, you have to have an entirely different zero trust framework and model to support the target. So I think that's it's kind of a 4-dimensional challenge to solve there. Good question.
And the element on top of that is, monitoring the use of that identity to judge does this look like it's risky? Does it look like it's legitimate? Having that like SOAR automated response in terms of that identity, mapping that to, malicious insiders versus a compromised account. And like, how do you add that on top of just getting the login to work and the offboarding? And then on top of that, what does good use of this identity look like for infrastructure workloads and people and contractors? I mean, there's a lot of complexity here we haven't gotten to.
Yeah, well, this could be an all-day show, but people have to go home. But before you
do that, IAM puns. I expected more IAM puns, in the chat. Then maybe that's a good one. I am glad
Rich Stroffolino gave us a slew of them in our game earlier.
Yeah, that's true. Fair.
And we had what was the Incompetent Angry Monkeys was the band name. Somebody thought of it. Was it Tony?
That was good.
Randall Henninger? I forget who said it. But anyways, hey, click on the link at the bottom of the screen. We'd love to see you. Nice. I am what I am. There you go, Andrew Aiken, closing out with
Drop the mic. That's it.
There you go. Very good, Andrew. All right. Click the meetup button at the bar. Join us over on Discord. We'd love to see you there. A huge thanks to both Ivan and TC for today's discussion. If you have not clicked the the poll to get a nice warm handoff to Axonius, please do that right now. It'll be up actually even after this. Go do it right now. Click Discord.